first time I met Miss Freeman was in my very first audition ever for theater. I was at a church getting ready to audition for Hot, and I was sitting on the bench, and I was so scared and so nervous. And this woman just comes out of nowhere and is like, "Hi, honeys, how are you? How are you all doing today?" And has a little top knot ponytail on the very top of her head. And was just kept going on and on about stuff and was so like loud and obnoxious. And I was so scared. Like, I was like, who is this woman? Like, I don't know who she is. She is scaring me.
Author William Arthur Ward once said, "The mediocre teacher tells, the good teacher explains, the superior teacher demonstrates, but the great teacher inspires."
By these standards, Helen Freeman is a great teacher. With her booming personality, contagious smile, and kindness that can only be matched by her passion for the arts, Helen has never met a stranger. For the past 20 years, she has taught the Huntington area the art of communicating. Born and raised in the south side of Huntington, Helen has strong roots in our community. In 1993, Helen co-founded Huntington Outdoor Theater. For 20 summers, she has devoted endless hours to directing and producing Broadway shows in Huntington's Ritter Park Amphitheater.
Along with Hot, Helen is the director of the theater department at Huntington High School, as well as the head coach of the Huntington High School speech and debate team. Both of these programs are ranked #1 in the state and are recognized nationally. While these accomplishments are incredible feats in themselves, we chose to feature Helen because of her extraordinary ability to touch and change the lives of her students.
As two of her former students, Alyssa and I have had the privilege to call Helen Freeman our mentor, our teacher, but most importantly, our friend. On Tuesday, April 6, 2013, we sat down with Helen and a few of her current students at Huntington High to gain perspective on her past, present, and future.
I loved Huntington, but my life was hard when I grew up because I had 6 other brothers and sisters, and my mom and dad owned Cam Sam, which a lot of people don't know. That's my dad's name and his food, but we don't own any of those anymore because my parents worked so hard. I can remember that they would leave the house at 11 a.m. in the morning and come back at 6 a.m. the next morning. And my mom might just come home to cook dinner, but my sister really raised me. And my mom loved me. I mean, she loved all of us, but 7 kids is a lot of kids to feed and a lot of kids to send to college.
Yeah.
And almost all my brothers and sisters have gone to college, with the exception of one only did 2 years. But yeah, they've all gone to college and they all have master's degrees and they're all brilliant and they're all musicians. But growing up in Huntington, I really love the city. But I never thought growing up that I would ever be the person I am now.
Really?
Because we did a lot of music, but nobody encouraged me to do theater. I can remember not even getting rides to things. I had to walk wherever I wanted to go because my parents couldn't leave work. So for me to end up to be a director, it's very weird. It was like all God's pathway for me. And I guess my background just kind of pushed me that way because I think I was always blessed with the gift of speaking. And I could always, when I would read a story, like in 3rd grade, I would go read to the 6th grade because my 3rd grade teacher thought I was amazing. And I was at that time. I could do voices, and it was just God-given. And it just kind of, all those little things that happened, the encouragement of my 3rd grade teacher, Miss Eaton, to my high school teacher, Miss Cox, because I was a really great narrator, they all encouraged me to love the arts, and I guess that's why I ended up how I am. Then when I got to college, I'd gone away for a semester and hated it. And I decided that I wanted to go back home to Marshall, and that's where I met my husband. I met my college professor in Bennett East, who loved me, and I did speech pathology and theater. Who does that? But because he loved me, he took me under his wing and taught me all I know about directing. It's not about the lines. Everybody thinks, I gotta have lines, I don't have any lines. It doesn't really matter. If you're a good actor and you're doing what you're supposed to, you're gonna shine. It's that people think you have to have lines to shine. Well, if you can't shine without a line, you can't shine with a line. Does that make sense? you're not really a strong actor if that's what you need. And always the kids that think they're really, really good are the ones that complain, and they're really, really not. Does that make sense? Am I not correct about that? Have you noticed that in the ones that complain, I should have been the lead. Well, if you were good, you'd be the lead. It is just like the play competition piece. When she said, obviously her talent, what is it? To yours. It's true. And I don't mean that mean, but that's the way it really is. And that's why that whole play is exactly the way it really is, isn't it?
I was not the most gifted in my college classes. I wasn't. But I had the best work ethic. And I had the most dedication. And I didn't realize that then because the first time I got a C on my one-act directing project, I cried. I mean, I went off and cried. I didn't cry in front of anyone else. And I thought, I stink. And then I just told myself I was going to work harder. And I did. Then I got A's. And I got to be the first student in 11 years to get to direct at Marshall. I mean, that's like they never ask kids to do that. And I directed on the main stage. And then it just kind of propelled from there, and people thought I was good. And then I went to Charleston, and I directed there and became one of the best directors there. And then it just got bigger, and then I ended up doing all of Huntington Outdoor Theater and school and winning. And
before junior year, I wouldn't have thought about doing theater, and she grabbed me in the hallway and asked me to come to her class the second day of junior year. And I got switched in, and I've loved it since. Public speaking is probably one of the most important things she's taught me now that I'm thinking about it. I can get up in front of a room full of people without hesitation and speak.
how did I become an educator? What made me want to do that? Well, that's a story all in itself. Originally, I'd always wanted to be a speech and theater teacher my whole life, theater especially. And I went to a Christian college, and I had gone to a Christian high school, and they encouraged you to go to this Christian college called Bob Jones University. It was so strict and unnecessarily strict. I just didn't want to be brainwashed into believing what I knew I already believed, and I didn't want somebody to tell me how to believe, and that's what I felt like they were doing. And so I felt like God really wanted me to come home, and I really wanted to go home. I missed my mom and dad, and I missed my freedom, and I loved my life, and so I decided that I'm going to go back to Marshall, and I came back in January of my freshman year. I loved it. I was so happy. I was popular, but I didn't like do sororities or anything like that. It's just my personality was so crazy. Everybody knew me, and so it was so exciting, and I just loved it. And then I met my husband on a blind date. How frightening is that? The next year. And actually, I didn't love him at all. And I really didn't even like him. And we kept dating because the person who got us together told the one that told him I liked him, and told him that told us that we liked each other and that it would break our heart if we broke up, whatever that means. And so we stayed together until freaking April 1st, and that's when we got engaged. And I said yes. Why I said yes, I don't know, but now I love him, and I knew I did. And in that time, I was still a speech therapist, because when I came back, I didn't feel like I could come back to Marshall for something that they already, I had to go to Marshall for something that the university where I went didn't have, so the people at my high school wouldn't think I was sinning or something, blah, blah, blah. And so I decided that I wanted to be a speech therapist, which was the dumbest thing I ever did. But it worked out to my favor. They tried to weed you out. And the more they tried to weed me out, the more I said, no, nobody's weeding me out. And I worked that much harder. And actually, I was really good at it. I wouldn't say I was great, because I didn't love it. But I was good at it, and I learned a lot about the vocal mechanism, and I learned a lot about anatomy, and now I'm such a better teacher because of that. I feel like I'm a stronger theater teacher because of that whole degree. And then after that, I minored in theater at the same time, and then I went into communications and minored in theater. Then I went back and got my speech and theater certificate because I knew that I needed to be a teacher and make a difference in people's lives.
To be more open and just to be myself around everyone and like at home of myself. But here it was, it took a while to actually open up and be myself in front of everyone. And that's one thing that she taught me. And I'm more social with people and I'm not as awkward. I'm still awkward, but I'm not as awkward. And I don't know, I can talk to people better, and I can like socialize with complete strangers and not be like, what?
It's hard. It is really hard today. I think when a kid comes back and tells you that you changed their life for the better, that's the best thing you could ever ask for. Then you know what you did was not in vain, and it was for good. Because you don't realize how many lives you can touch, either negatively or positively. And you can choose. You choose. Do I want to be a negative influence or a positive influence?
As I went on and got to know her, she's still crazy and stuff, but you learn to like appreciate her loudness and her being open and stuff like that, because it truly like helps you as a person and all this stuff. Because when you're nervous and are feeling down, she always seems to like help you out.
Theater really does make lives different. Speech and debate really does make lives different. Because once you start talking, you build that self-confidence that you need. And then you get out of the fact, some people don't ever get over it, the fact that they have to be this person to be popular, or they have to act this way to be popular, they have to act this way to get that friend, or they have to drink, or they have to do drugs, or they have to but eventually everything that they've been taught will eventually hit home. I think the only way that I can be remembered with ending Huntington Outdoor Theater this year is through the lives of my students, the memories and the stories. I think that's how we are remembered. That they'll say, this person did this, and I will never, ever forget it. And then when they had their Big Mac attack, or they ran down the street and they talked to that French lady in the elevator in New York, and she didn't even know what they were saying. Those stupid stories, the funny things, the times I might have touched your life, those are the things that I want to be remembered for. And I want each person to remember them and smile, and remember that they have a chance to do the same for someone else.